My name is Rita, Margaret Cromwell, 49 years old, civil litigation attorney, not a partner in a high-end firm. No, I have worked for myself my whole life. A small office on the second floor of an old building near the train station. A plaque reading legal consultation, the smell of coffee and paper. Regular people came to me, divorces, inheritances, neighbor disputes, HOA complaints. I knew the laws the way a chef knows their knives in the dark by touch, without thinking, and yet I completely missed what was happening in my own family. Hank and I were married for 27 years. 27, that is more than half my life. We met when I was 22 and he was 25. He worked as an engineer at a plant. Then in the 90s, he opened his own firm designing HVAC systems. Sounds boring, I know, but Hank knew how to make boring things profitable. By the 2000s, he already had an LLC grossing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, his own office in the city, 8 employees. We literally built our suburban home together. I picked out the tile, he argued with the contractor. We both painted the living room walls and walked around with paint on our elbows for 3 days afterward. A 2-story brick house with a deck opening into the backyard. A 1/4-acre lot. The apple trees Hank planted the first year now reached the bedroom window. 2 cats, Mischief and Pear. Mischief, grey, spiteful, with a habit of knocking things off tables. Pear, orange, fat, lazy, slept 20 hours a day and only woke up for food. It was a good home, a good life, or at least I thought it was. Hank died on March 11th, a stroke, right at his desk over his blueprints. His secretary Lydia Palmer found him. He was sitting with his head on his arms, as if he had fallen asleep. The ambulance arrived in 14 minutes. They were still rushing him to the hospital when his heart stopped. I got the call at 2 p.m. I was in my office, reviewing a case for a woman suing her property management company over a leaking roof. A regular Tuesday. The phone rang. I saw an unknown number and for some reason did not want to answer. My hand hovered over the screen. Then I picked up and my world cracked in half. I barely remember the first 2 weeks after the funeral. It was all a fog. People came, brought casseroles, said words I did not hear. Mischief wandered around the house meowing, looking for Hank. Pear lay on his pillow and did not move. I slept on the couch in the living room because I could not bring myself to lie in our bed. Dear viewers, please let us know where you are watching from and which region or country you are in. Please like this video, watch it until the end, and subscribe to our channel. Your support is very important to us. Thank you so much. And then came April. One day while I was sitting on the patio with a cup of tea, a silver Hyundai with Pennsylvania plates pulled up to the gate. 2 people got out. A woman in her 30s, tall, dark-haired, wearing a long coat, and a slightly older man with a receding hairline in a cheap grey suit. The woman walked ahead, the man slightly behind, like a shadow. I stood up and set my cup on the railing. "Margaret Cromwell?" the woman asked, approaching the porch. She had a sharp, confident voice, the way people speak when they are used to getting their way. "Yes, and who are you?" I asked. She stopped at the bottom step, looking at the house slowly, calculatingly, the way a buyer at a market looks at goods. "I am Sylvia Cromwell, Henry's wife." I remember how something snapped inside. Not with a crash, not with pain, but quietly, like a thread breaking. I stood there looking at this woman and my mind was empty, completely empty, like a room where all the furniture had been moved out. "Ex-wife?" I asked, though I already knew the answer from her face, from the way she said Cromwell, from the wedding band on her finger. "Common law," she replied. "We lived together for 13 years in Scranton. We have a son, Tyler. He is 12. 13 years. My ears started ringing. 13 years. That meant Hank started living with this woman when our marriage was 14 years old, when we finished building this house, when I thought we had finally found our footing. The man in the grey suit turned out to be her legal consultant, not an attorney. He handed me a business card, Victor R. Evans, Legal Consulting. I took the card because my hands needed to do something, anything, otherwise they would have started shaking. "We want to talk about the inheritance," Sylvia said. I should have closed the door. I should have said, "Contact me through my attorney." I had given that exact advice to clients hundreds of times. Never speak to the opposing party directly, never show emotion, never make decisions in a state of shock. But I was not a client. I was a widow who had just found out her husband of 27 years lived a double life. "Come in," I said. We sat in the living room. Pear lifted her head from the couch, looked at the guests, and dropped her snout back onto the pillow. Mischief hid behind the curtain, watching with yellow eyes. I did not offer tea. Sylvia did not ask. Henry promised Tyler that he would take care of his future. She started, and her voice softened, becoming almost pleading. But I saw her eyes scanning the walls, the furniture, the painting over the fireplace, calculating, appraising. He said the house, the business, everything would be for us too. We are his family too. Tyler is his son. Here are the documents. She pulled a folder from her bag. The boy's birth certificate. Father, Henry Patrick Cromwell. I stared at the paper, at Hank's familiar handwriting in the father section. He went to the Vital Records office himself. He signed it himself. It was real, not a forgery. My husband signed away his paternity while I sat at home waiting for him to return from yet another business trip. Business trips. God, the business trips. Once every 2 weeks, sometimes more. Scranton. That is a 4-hour drive from our suburb. There and back over the weekend. How did I not notice? How did I, a lawyer with 26 years of experience, a family law specialist, miss it? "What exactly do you want?" I asked in an even tone. Professional habit. Everything was burning inside, but my voice was steady. Sylvia straightened up, and the pleading notes vanished completely. "The house, a share in the company, the car, the Toyota Hank bought last year. He bought it for us. He just didn't get around to transferring the title. And the savings. Hank said there was about 600,000 in the accounts. 600,000. She knew the amount. Hank told her. He shared things with her that I had to pry out with questions. Things he never just offered up to me. In 27 years, I never knew the exact balances of his accounts. But this woman, his secret wife, knew. I stared at her in silence, then at the consultant, Evans, who sat quietly shuffling papers in his briefcase, then back at Sylvia. "I will think about it," I said. "Do not think too long," she replied, standing up. "Tyler is a direct heir, a son. By law, he is entitled to a share. We can resolve this peacefully, or we can go through court. But court will be ugly for everyone," she said, ugly with emphasis. I knew what she meant. Publicity, the local papers, the neighbours. The whole suburb would find out that Rita Cromwell, a respected attorney, lived 27 years with a man who had a double life and was completely clueless. Humiliation. That was her threat. Not the court. Humiliation. They left. I remained standing in the living room, holding Evans's business card and the copy of the birth certificate for a boy named Tyler. Pear was snoring on the couch. Mischief came out from behind the curtain and rubbed against my legs. I dialed the number of Pauline, my old friend and fellow attorney. "Pauline," I said, and my voice finally broke. "I need help. Hank had another family." The silence on the line lasted 5 seconds. Then Pauline exhaled. "Come to my place right now. Grab your documents and come over." I hung up the phone, sat on the floor right in the middle of the living room, and cried. For the first time since the funeral. Mischief jumped into my lap, and I squeezed her so tight she squeaked, but did not run away. I sat on the floor of my house, the house they apparently wanted to take, and I realized one thing. My life had just been split into a before and after, and in this after, I did not yet know who I would be.
a widow fighting for what was hers, or a woman who gave up everything and walked away? Back then I did not know the answer, but somewhere deep down, beneath the tears and the pain, a thought was already stirring. A small, cold, legally precise thought, which would later make that opposing lawyer turn pale. I drove to Pauline's that same evening. She lived in Manhattan on the Upper West Side, in an old 3-bedroom apartment inherited from her grandmother. Pauline M. Mitchell, an attorney with 30 years of experience, an estate law specialist, a woman with a voice that made even judges flinch in court. We had been friends since law school. She had known Hank almost as long as I had. When I walked in, she had already put the kettle on and poured some cognac.
Her glasses and a legal pad were on the table. Pauline always took handwritten notes. She did not trust computers. "Sit down," she said, pointing to an armchair. "Tell me everything." I did. I told her about Sylvia, the birth certificate, the 13 years of a parallel life, Scranton, the boy Tyler. Pauline listened without interrupting. She only raised her eyebrows once when I mentioned the amount Sylvia knew about Hank's accounts. 600,000, Pauline repeated. She knew the exact amount. Yes. Pauline poured me the cognac. I drank it in one gulp, something I had never done in my life. It burned my throat, made my eyes water. "Rita, listen to me carefully." Pauline took off her glasses and rubbed the bridge of her nose. "Right now it feels like your world has collapsed, and it has. But legally the situation is not as dire as you think. You are the legal spouse, a registered marriage. The house is deeded to you both, joint property, the LLC, Venteng. He is the sole managing member." Pauline wrote it down. "Cars, there are 2. My Audi is in my name. His Toyota is in his. Accounts, I don't know exactly. We had a joint checking account, but Hank always managed the finances himself. I didn't pry." Pauline looked at me over her notepad. There was something in her gaze I did not want to see. Not pity, worse, understanding. She understood that I, a family law attorney, had made the exact mistake I warned my own clients about. I trusted my husband unconditionally with financial matters. "Okay," she said. "The child is a primary heir. There is no getting around that. If paternity is established, Tyler is entitled to a share. But the common law wife has no such rights. Sylvia can only claim as the representative of her minor son, and only for his share, not her own." I nodded. I knew all this, knew the laws, knew the precedents, knew how these cases were handled. But it is one thing to explain this to a stranger sitting across from you in a coffee-scented office, and quite another to be that woman yourself. "I need to go through the documents," I said. "In Hank's home office and at work, I don't know what else he was hiding." "Exactly," Pauline nodded. "Start with the house, then we will go to his office together. And Rita, do not engage with this Sylvia directly. No more conversations without me." Agreed, I promised. The next morning, after returning home, I started searching. Hank had a home office on the first floor. A small room with a window, a bookcase, a desk, a computer. I rarely went in there. It was his space, his territory. Even Mischief, who considered the entire house her property, stayed out of Hank's office. He once closed the door so sharply he caught her tail. Since then, she gave that room a wide berth. I sat at his desk, turned on the computer. Password. I knew his password. He had not changed it in years. His mother Tamara's birthday. August 14th, 1947. The screen lit up, and on the desktop I saw neat folders. Projects 2024, accounting, personal. My hands were shaking when I opened the personal folder. Photos, hundreds of photos. Hank, with a dark-haired boy who had his eyes, his chin. The boy on a bike, the boy fishing, the boy on his first day of school. White shirt, a bouquet, a backpack, Sylvia smiling next to him, Hank hugging them both. I scrolled through these photos, and each one felt like a physical blow, not just because they existed, but because I saw an expression on Hank's face that I knew, that I considered mine. He used to smile like that in our photos 20 years ago, then stopped. I thought it was age, exhaustion, routine, but he had just started smiling like that somewhere else, for someone else. In the accounting folder, I found something else. Transfers. Monthly bank transfers to S. Ramirez's card. $2,000 every single month, starting in 2012. 12 years. I ran the numbers on a calculator. Over $280,000 in total. $280,000 out of our family budget, out of the money I considered ours. I leaned back in the chair and looked out the window. I thought, he watered those apple trees. Then he got in his car, drove 4 hours to Scranton to another woman, another child. Then came back, had dinner with me, got into our bed and asked, "Rita, what is for breakfast tomorrow?" How? How did he do it? I kept digging through the computer. In his email, there were exchanges with Sylvia. Mundane, short. Buy Tyler sneakers, size 9 already. The bathroom faucet is leaking. Call a plumber. When are you coming? Tyler misses you. Not a single I love you. Not a single affectionate word. Business-like messages, like between neighbors sharing a fence. But there was another email, one that I read 3 times, sent in January, 2 months before Hank's death. From Sylvia. Hank, I spoke with Russell. He says if we execute the deed transfer to Tyler now, there will not be problems later. Think about it. I know Rita does not know anything, but this is about our son's future. Russell said it can be done through his law office. Quietly, no unnecessary questions. Russell. Who was Russell? I searched the contacts. Russell Adams, attorney at law in Scranton. Hank did not reply to him. Or at least there was no reply in this inbox. A deed transfer. They wanted to transfer the title of our house to Tyler. Quietly, no unnecessary questions, without my knowledge. My husband was discussing with another woman how to sign our shared home over to a child I did not know existed, while I sat upstairs watching Netflix. I closed the laptop, sat for a minute staring at the wall, then opened the desk drawer. In the top drawer, pens, paper clips, a stapler. In the second, a stack of papers, contracts, invoices, receipts. In the third, bottom drawer, which was locked with a small keyhole, I found a match for a key on Hank's keyring that the hospital gave me with his belongings. The drawer clicked open. Inside was a brown, heavy-duty string tie envelope. It had no label. I untied the string. Inside were corporate documents, the operating agreement for Venteng LLC, and another piece of paper. The one that made the room spin, a membership interest purchase agreement, dated last December. Hank had sold 50% of his LLC. The buyer, Russell Adams, that very attorney from Scranton. The purchase price, $1. $1, half of a company grossing hundreds of thousands for $1. This was not a sale. It was asset stripping. Hank was transferring the business out of our marital property, quietly, through a proxy, through a familiar attorney in another state, and he did it 3 months before he died. He could not have known he would die, which meant he was preparing for something else, a divorce, leaving me for Sylvia, or just covering his bases in case I found out. I sat with this paper in my hands, and slowly, like gears in an old clock, thoughts began to turn in my head. Not emotions, thoughts, legal, cold, precise. Sale of membership interest in an LLC without spousal consent. Marital property laws, a transaction disposing of joint marital assets, requiring a spouse's formal authorization,
can be voided by the court at the request of the spouse whose consent was bypassed. The statute of limitations generally runs from when the spouse discovers the transaction. I had just discovered it. The clock was ticking. I pulled out my phone and called Pauline. "Pauline," I said, and my voice sounded completely different than yesterday. Not broken, not lost, even and sharp as a blade. "I need you to check something. An attorney in Scranton, Russell Adams. He is now a co-owner of Hank's firm. A transfer in December for $1 without my consent." Pauline was silent for 3 seconds, then exhaled. "Without your notarized consent. Without..." "Rita," Pauline stumbled. "God, I know what this is. Wait, if this Adams is the same guy they wanted to use to transfer the house deed." "Exactly," I said. "It is not a coincidence. It is a scheme. They were siphoning everything off piece by piece, quietly. The firm is already transferred. They just did not get to the house in time." Pauline went quiet. I could hear her breathing into the receiver. Then she spoke slowly, enunciating every word. "Rita, you need to check all the bank accounts, everything, immediately. If they started with the firm, they might have gotten to the money." I hung up and looked at the envelope lying in front of me. Brown, nondescript, with untied strings. Inside lay the proof that my husband had not just lived a double life. He had methodically, document by document, prepared my financial execution. If it were not for the stroke that took him at his desk on March 11th, I would have woken up one day to find I had nothing. No house, no firm, no money, nothing. Mischief jumped onto the desk and lay right on the envelope, pinning the papers with her paw. I absent-mindedly scratched her behind the ear. She purred, and I sat there, realizing that Sylvia had not just come out of greed or audacity. She came to collect what Hank had already promised, what he had already started handing over to her. She was not laying claim to someone else's property. In her mind, all of this was already hers. Hank had decided it, and I was just an obstacle he had planned to bypass. 27 years. For 27 years, I built a life with a man who, for the last 13, was building a different life without me, at my expense. And now, after his death, that other life had come for the scraps of mine. I got up from the desk, walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and drank it. My hands were no longer shaking. Something inside had flipped, like a switch. Had the pain gone away? No. It just stepped aside, making room for something else. Something I knew well from my line of work.
It was the feeling that comes when you see the whole picture, when you understand your opponent's strategy, when you know exactly where they made a mistake, because he did make a mistake, Hank made a mistake, and Sylvia made a mistake, and their attorney Adams made a mistake. They all made a mistake thinking I was just a quiet wife who did not look at documents. I went back to the office, pulled the purchase agreement from the envelope, and read it again, slowly, word by word. And on the 3rd page, under the payment terms, I saw something that caught my breath. The routing and account numbers for Adams's bank account. The exact same bank, the exact same branch as Hank's, and an account number that started with the same digits as one of the accounts listed on a bank statement I found among the papers in the drawer. They were connected, not just a familiar attorney, not just a middleman. Accounts at the same bank, same branch, maybe they even had power of attorney for each other. Maybe there was something else I did not know about yet. I photographed all the documents, every page, every signature, every stamp. I sent them to Pauline and wrote a single text. "Pauline, pull the state corporate registry filings for Venteng, get the full history, and find out if Adams opened any new LLCs in the last 6 months. I think this is just the tip of the iceberg," Pauline replied, "On it." Then, "Rita, how are you holding up?" I looked at the phone screen. How was I? I did not know. I was furious, crushed, betrayed, and yet, for the first time in 3 weeks, Absolutely crystal clear calm. Like a surgeon before an operation. Like a bomb squad tech approaching a wire. "I am fine," I typed back. And it was almost the truth. I spent the next 2 days in a fever. I tore the entire office apart. Every drawer, every shelf. I found another folder. It held printouts of bank statements from the last year. Hank apparently kept them for his records. I laid them out on the living room floor, and mischief walked between the sheets, leaving paw prints on the paper. The picture came together slowly, but inexorably. Over the past year, a total of $420,000 had left Hank's accounts. On top of the usual $2,000 monthly transfers to Sylvia, huge sums, $120,000 to Adams's account, $80,000 to some LLC called Build Resource, and another $150,000 in cash withdrawals in several installments. I called Hank's office. Lydia Palmer, his secretary, picked up. "Lydia, it is Rita. Tell me, did Hank do anything unusual in his last few months? Any strangers come by? Maybe he signed some documents that seemed odd?" Lydia hesitated. I heard her clear her throat, searching for words. "Mrs. Cromwell, I did not want to bother you. You have been through so much. But since you are asking, in February, a man came by, said he was an attorney. He and Hank locked themselves in the office for 2 hours. Then the man left, and Hank asked me to overnight some documents to Scranton." Scranton. Again with Scranton. "Lydia, what documents?" "I do not know exactly. The envelope was sealed, but it was addressed to R. Adams, personal and confidential." I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat for a long time, staring at the statements spread across the floor. Pear waddled over, sniffed the papers, and plopped right down on them, pinning the November statement under her orange bulk. February. A month before Hank's death, Adams had visited him. They signed something, shipped something I did not know about, which possibly changed the entire inheritance picture. The phone rang. Pauline. "Rita," her voice was tense. "I got the corporate registry filings. Sit down if you are standing." "I am sitting. Talk." In February there was another change in Ventying. Adams, who got 50% in December, became the managing director in February. Hank stepped down. He was no longer the director or the sole owner. Technically, he was not running the company when he died. The floor swayed beneath me. Or did I just imagine it? Wait. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. "Are you saying the firm, the whole firm, belongs to this Adams guy now?" "No. 50% is Adams's. The other 50 is still under Hank's name, meaning it is part of the estate. But if Adams is a proxy for Sylvia..." She did not finish. She did not need to. If Adams was a proxy, Sylvia already controlled half the business. And now she had come for the other half. The house, the accounts, everything. And I was standing in her way. The only obstacle between her and total control over everything Hank and I had built in 27 years. "Pauline," I said quietly, "I need to go to Scranton. I need to see this Adams, and I need to find out exactly what Hank signed in February." "Rita, do not you dare go alone." But I already knew I was going, and that whatever I found there would change everything. I drove to Scranton the next morning, on a Saturday. Pauline called 3 times, begging me to wait until Monday to go together. I did not wait. It was not anger burning inside me. No, anger would be too simple a word. It was something else. A hunger for the truth. I needed to see it all with my own eyes. The city my husband traveled to for 13 years, the house where his other family lived, the man through whom he siphoned off our property. 4 hours on the highway, a typical April morning, semi-trucks, the smell of gasoline at a rest stop where I stopped to get awful vending machine coffee. The plastic cup burned my fingers. The coffee was bitter and watered down, and I stood by my car wondering how many times Hank had stopped at this exact rest stop, maybe in this exact spot, Maybe he drank this same terrible coffee before continuing on to see her. Scranton turned out to be a typical mid-sized town. Strip malls, a Walmart, old churches, streets lined with peeling benches. Nothing special. I did not know what I expected. Maybe something that would explain why Hank chose this place. But there was no explanation. Just a town. Just life. I found Adams's law office easily. Pauline had pulled the address from the state bar registry. Ground floor of a commercial building. Private entrance. A sign reading, Russell Adams, attorney at law. The door was locked. It was Saturday. But a plaque displayed operating hours and an emergency contact number. I did not call. Instead, I drove to the address I found in Hank's computer, the address where those monthly transfers were sent. Elm Street, apartment 7B. It was a standard older walk-up brick building. The hallway smelled of dampness and cats. I walked up to the second floor and stopped in front of door 7B, a brown door with a peephole. On the doormat sat a pair of kids' sneakers, muddy from the spring slush. Tyler's sneakers, the son of my husband, whose existence I discovered a week ago. I stood in front of that door and could not bring myself to ring the bell. Why had I come? What did I want to see? What did I want to say? I did not know. My lawyer brain was screaming, "Leave! This is unprofessional. It is dangerous. You are giving the opposing party information about your moves." But something else, not my brain, but my heart or my gut or something deeper, was saying, "You have the right to know." I rang the bell. A boy opened the door. Dark hair, brown eyes, Hank's chin. That exact square, stubborn chin. He was wearing an anime t-shirt and sweatpants. He looked up at me, not recognizing me, not afraid, just curious. "Can I help you?" he asked. "Your mom," I said. My voice did not shake. "Mom!" Tyler yelled into the depths of the apartment. "Someone is here for you." Sylvia appeared a second later. She had no makeup on, wore a bathrobe, her hair pulled back into a ponytail, without the eyelash extensions and the long coat. She looked different, younger, and at the same time, more tired. Seeing me, she stopped dead. Her face froze. "Tyler, go to your room," she said, never taking her eyes off me. "Oh, Mom, come on." The boy shrugged and walked away. A bedroom door clicked shut. We stood facing each other, me in the hallway, her in the doorway. "What are you doing here?" Sylvia asked. There was no fear in her voice, rather annoyance, as if I had shown up at a bad time, as if I were an interruption. "I want to talk," I said. "No lawyers, no paperwork, just talk." She looked at me for about 10 seconds, then stepped aside. "Come in." The apartment was small, a 2-bedroom place with low ceilings and windows facing an alley, but clean and well kept. Photos of Tyler on the walls, Tyler as a toddler, Tyler at the beach, Tyler in a school play, and not a single photo of Hank. Not one. Sylvia caught my gaze. "I put them away," she said shortly. After the funeral, Tyler cried every time he saw them. She did not offer to let me take my coat off, did not offer tea. We sat in the tiny kitchen, maybe 60 square feet, with a gas stove and a refrigerator that hummed so loudly we had to raise our voices slightly. "Did you know about me?" I asked. Sylvia scoffed, humorless, crooked. Of course I knew, from the very beginning. Hank did not hide that he was married. Told me in the first month, "I have a wife back home. I am not getting a divorce, but I am going to be with you." I was young, stupid, thought I could steal him away. Then I got pregnant, had Tyler, and divorce became the least of my concerns. Life just kept rolling. She spoke about it calmly, without melodrama, without apologies, as a simple fact. Grass is green, sky is blue. My husband lived in 2 homes. 13 years, I said. 13 years. You knew he went back to me, slept with me, lived with me. And you were okay with that? Sylvia planted her elbows on the table and interlaced her fingers. And were you okay with him leaving every 2 weeks to God knows where? You knew too, Margaret. Maybe not about me specifically, but you felt it. Women always feel it. It was just convenient for you not to know. That hit harder than I expected, because she was right. Not completely, but partially right. I had sensed those phone calls he took in another room, those weekends when he supposedly went to a job site and came back smelling of a different house. Not perfume, no, but a house. Different soap, different laundry detergent, different cooking. I chalked it up to paranoia, exhaustion, age. It was convenient for me not to know. I swallowed the bitter pill and changed the subject. I needed information, not therapy. Tell me about Adams. Sylvia blinked. For the first time in our conversation, something flickered in her eyes. Not fear, but wariness. Russell, what about him? Who is he to you? He is my cousin. Why? A cousin? I felt something click inside, like a puzzle piece finally snapping into place. Adams was not just a familiar lawyer. He was Sylvia's relative. It stayed in the family. Hank had not transferred assets to a stranger. He transferred them to his mistress's family through her cousin. Sylvia, I said slowly, do you know that Russell now owns half of Hank's firm? She did not answer, but she did not look surprised either. That meant she knew. And do you know that this transaction was executed without my consent? That legally it can be voided? Sylvia leaned back in her chair and crossed her arms over her chest. Margaret, let's be honest. For the last 2 years, Hank talked about signing everything over to Tyler. Everything. The firm, the savings, the car. He felt guilty toward his son, toward us. He said that you two did not have children, and he regretted it. That he wanted Tyler to at least get everything. We did not have children. That was a low blow, and Sylvia knew it. Hank and I had tried for a long time, painfully. Doctors, procedures, hopes, and crushing disappointments. It did not happen. I thought we survived it together, but it turned out he processed it separately, had a kid on the side, and decided that this child deserved it all. He said that. Everything? I asked, my voice dropping, dangerously quiet. Everything? The house too? He said he would sell your house and buy us an apartment in Manhattan so Tyler could go to a good school. Sell our house. The house we built together, where I painted the walls, where the apple trees reached the bedroom window. He was going to sell it like a piece of luggage, like old furniture, to buy an apartment for the woman he was sleeping with on the side. I stood up. My knees felt like jelly, but I stood up. Thank you for the chat, I said. Wait, Sylvia stood up too. Listen, I understand you are hurting, but Tyler is his son, his only son. He has a right. Tyler has a right to a share of the inheritance, I interrupted. By law, not to everything a share. And it will not be you representing his interests. It will be family court if this goes to trial. Because you, Sylvia, are not his wife. You are a nobody. Legally, a nobody. It was cruel. I knew it was cruel, but I needed her to understand. I was not the meek woman she could intimidate with the word ugly. Sylvia turned pale, then flushed red, then narrowed her eyes. You will regret this, she said. We have a good lawyer, not Evans, another one, a real shark from the city. He said we will get everything. Another lawyer from the city. That was news. It meant Evans in his cheap grey suit was just the vanguard, a scouting party. They were saving the real heavy artillery. I left the apartment without saying goodbye, walked down the stairs, and stepped out onto the street. I sat in my car for 15 minutes gripping the steering wheel. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from rage. Hank was going to sell our house, our home, where we lived for 22 years, where I knew every crack in the wall, every squeak of the floorboards. He was going to sell it and buy an apartment for a woman he slept with on the side. I dialed Pauline. Pauline, Adams is Sylvia's cousin. Silence. Then Pauline said a single, highly expressive 4-letter word. And there is more.
I continued. They have a new lawyer from the city. Not Evans. Someone serious. Rita, come to my place, right now. We need to think. I started the car and drove out of Scranton. At the exit near a gas station, I saw a silver Hyundai with Pennsylvania plates, the exact one Sylvia had driven to my house. It was parked on the shoulder, and next to it stood a man. Not Evans. Someone else, tall, wearing a dark coat, holding a phone to his ear. He was talking, gesturing with his free hand, and as I drove past, he turned his head and looked straight at me. I did not recognize him, but I remembered his face, sharp, angular, with deep-set eyes, the face of a man used to counting other people's money. I reached Pauline's by evening. She was waiting for me with dinner ready, mac and cheese, just like in our law school days. A stack of printouts sat on the table. Sit, eat, and listen, Pauline said. I ran a background check on Adams and found something interesting. She handed me a printout from the corporate registry. Build Resource LLC, the one Hank wired $80,000 to. Sole member, Russell Adams. Date of registration, October of last year. 2 months before Hank sold him the stake in Venteng. He created a shell company specifically for this, Pauline said. Pure shell. Through Build Resource, you can siphon money out of Venteng as payment for subcontracting. You draw up a contract, pay for non-existent services, the money vanishes. A classic scheme. I pushed the mac and cheese around with my fork. I was not hungry. Pauline, what about the house? Did they manage to do anything with the house? Pauline shook her head. The house is clean, joint ownership, no liens. But... She hesitated. I checked something else, Hank's bank accounts, or rather the joint savings you knew about. Rita, it has 8,000 in it, 8,000. Sylvia had mentioned 600,000. And the rest? I asked, though I already knew the answer. There were 2 other accounts, both closed, one in January, the other in February. Total cash withdrawals, 510,000, $500,000 withdrawn in cash, 2 months before his death. Where was that money? With Sylvia? With Adams? In a duffel bag under a bed in Scranton? I put my fork down. The food was cold. Pauline. He cleaned out everything systematically over 6 months. The firm through Adams. The cash. The house was the only thing left, and they would have gotten to it if it were not for the stroke. Pauline nodded. She looked at me with that same expression I had seen before. Not pity, but understanding. And something else. Professional thrill. Pauline loved complex cases. She lived for them. Rita, listen. She leaned across the table toward me. The LLC transfer is voidable. It was done without your notarized consent. We will challenge it in court. It is just a matter of time. The money he withdrew is joint marital property. We can demand compensation from the estate. The house is yours, your half, plus the spousal elective share. Nobody touches that. We can fight this, Rita, and we will win. I looked at her, and a warm feeling rose inside me. Hope, for the first time in these insane days. Hope. Pauline was right. The law was on my side. The transaction was voidable. The money could be clawed back. The house was mine. We would win. I drove home with that hope, like a flashlight in the dark. It kept me warm, gave me strength, let me breathe. The hope lasted exactly 4 days. On Wednesday morning, I got a call from an unknown number. Area code 212, Manhattan. Margaret Cromwell. My name is Arthur V. Sutton. I represent the interests of Sylvia Ramirez and her minor son, Tyler Cromwell. The voice was calm, velvety, confident, the voice of a man who knows his worth. I Googled him later. Sutton, a partner at a massive Manhattan firm. Specialization, high-stakes probate litigation and corporate disputes. His retainer started at $50,000. I am listening, I said. Ms. Cromwell, I would like to propose an informal, off-the-record meeting to discuss the situation. I think we both understand that a protracted legal battle is not in anyone's best interest. You are right, I replied. Not in anyone's interest, especially your client's, considering the transfer of Venteng's shares is completely voidable. A pause. Brief, but I caught it. Ms. Cromwell, Sutton lowered his voice slightly. I see you are a professional. All the more reason we should talk. There are circumstances you may not be aware of. Let's meet tomorrow. I can come to you. Circumstances I might not be aware of. I felt a chill, but my voice remained steady. Fine, tomorrow at 2 o'clock, my office. I hung up and immediately dialed Pauline. Pauline, Sutton, Arthur Sutton. Do you know him? Pauline stayed quiet for a moment, then spoke softly. I know him, Rita. This is serious. He does not lose.
Sutton arrived the next day at 2 p.m. on the dot. From my office window, I watched him step out of a black Mercedes, adjust his coat, and look up at the building's facade. Calculatingly, just like Sylvia had looked at my house. Only his gaze was different. Not greedy, but professional. He was not assessing value. He was assessing weaknesses. Pauline sat next to me in the visitor's chair, legal pad on her lap. I had insisted she be at the meeting. She had not objected. Sutton walked in, and the room instantly felt smaller. Not because of his height, but his presence. He was one of those people who take up all the air in a room. Confident movements, quiet voice, a suit that cost more than all the furniture in my office combined. He was in his 50s, greying at the temples, tanned. Not a vacation tan, but a tanning bed tan, perfectly even and artificial. Margaret, he extended a hand. His handshake was firm, dry, strictly business. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Pauline, a pleasure. Pauline nodded without standing up. She did not like it when opposing counsel was polite. She always said, the more polite they are, the more dangerous. We sat. I was behind the desk, Pauline to my right, Sutton across from us. He placed a leather portfolio on the desk, unzipped it, but did not open it. He held the pause. Theatrics. Margaret, I will be direct, he began. This is a difficult situation for all parties. My client, minor Tyler Cromwell, is 12 years old. His mother Sylvia is acting in his best interest. I understand your pain, your frustration, but the child is not to blame for his father's actions. No one is saying the child is to blame, I replied. The child is entitled to a share of the estate. By law, I am prepared to discuss that. Sutton nodded, opened the folder. This brings us to a delicate point. You are correct. Tyler is a direct heir, as are you. By law, the estate is divided equally among primary heirs, but he pulled out a document and placed it in front of me. There is a will. The world stopped. It did not slow down, did not freeze. It just stopped, like hitting pause on a movie. I stared at the piece of paper in front of me and could not force myself to read it. My hands rested on the desk, and I felt each finger as a separate entity, each with its own tremor. A will, Pauline repeated next to me. Her voice was calm, but I had known her for 30 years. I could hear the ringing tension beneath that calm. The last will and testament of Henry Patrick Cromwell. Sutton nodded. Drafted in February of this year, notarized and filed. February. That same February when Adams visited Hank's office, when Lydia Palmer mailed the envelope to Scranton. That is what they were signing, not a contract, a will. I picked up the sheet. The letters danced before my eyes, but I forced myself to read. The legal header, the seal, Hank's signature with its familiar sweeping H, and the text, I give, devise, and bequeath all of my property, of whatever nature and wherever situated, to my son, Tyler Cromwell. Everything. Not a share, not a portion. Everything. The house, the firm, the accounts, the cars, everything. To a 12-year-old boy. And I, the legal wife, 27 years of marriage. Got nothing. Attorney Adams, I asked, my voice sounding foreign, distant, like it was coming from underwater. Sutton shook his head. No, Attorney Crawford. Based in Manhattan, licensed, in good standing. It is all verifiable. Adams was simply a witness. The will was executed strictly by the book. It is filed in the state probate registry. Not Adams. A Manhattan attorney. They covered their bases, did not use a relative, found an independent, or supposedly independent attorney. Pauline reached out. A copy, please. Sutton pulled a second copy from his portfolio and handed it to her. Pauline put on her glasses and began to read, slowly tracing the lines with her finger, exactly as she did whenever she was hunting for a catch. Arthur, I said, gathering myself back into one piece. You do realize a will does not negate my spousal elective share. Half of all marital assets are mine by law. The will only covers Henry's half. Sutton smiled, softly, almost sympathetically. Naturally, your elective share remains yours. But let's look at what constitutes that share. He pulled out another document. The house is joint property. Yes, your half is untouchable, but the other half passes to Tyler via the will. The firm, well, you know the situation there. 50% belongs to Adams via the purchase agreement. The remaining 50% is in the estate, which per the will goes to Tyler. The funds in the accounts, $8,000. Your half is $4,000. The rest to Tyler. He laid it all out in front of me like a chess game. Move by move, piece by piece. And behind every move was Hank, dead Hank, who from the grave was continuing to funnel my assets toward his other family. The LLC transfer is invalid, Pauline said, looking up. Executed without a spousal consent form, we will challenge it. Sutton nodded, as if expecting exactly that. Challenge it. A lawsuit takes a year, minimum. Depositions, discovery, appeals. And during all that time, the firm will operate under the management of Adams, who, by the way, is already the managing director. He might, let's say, optimize the company's assets before the court reaches a verdict. Optimize. A pretty word meaning he would siphon off whatever was left while we were stuck in court. By the time a judge invalidated the sale, the firm would be an empty shell. I looked at Pauline. She was looking at Sutton, and her eyes held an expression I only ever saw her use in the courtroom. Cold, focused fury. What are you proposing? I asked. Sutton folded his hands on the table. A settlement agreement. You waive your right to challenge the LLC transfer and waive all claims against Tyler's share of the estate. You retain your half of the house and the $4,000 from the account. In exchange, Sylvia Ramirez agrees not to file a petition to enforce Tyler's right of residency in the home. What petition? I did not understand at first. Sutton pulled out yet another piece of paper. God, he had a whole stack of them, and each one felt like a knife. Tyler inherited half the house. As a minor, he has the right to reside in property he owns. His mother, as his legal guardian, can petition for occupancy. Your house, Margaret. You will be living under the same roof with your husband's mistress and his son, or you sell the house and split the proceeds. There it was. The blow I was not prepared for. Not the money, not the firm. The house, my home. They could move into my home. Sylvia, Tyler, their sneakers on my porch, their voices in my kitchen. Or I sell the house I painted with my own hands. I would have to give them half. Pauline placed a hand on my shoulder. I had not noticed her stand up. We will consider it, Pauline said for me. Give us a week. Sutton nodded, gathered the papers, zipped up the portfolio, stood up, and adjusted his coat. Margaret, he said at the door, I understand this is difficult, but believe me, it is the best option. A trial will be long, expensive, and public, and the result will be roughly the same, Only you will lose your half of the house to legal fees." He left. Pauline and I remained in the office. Outside, a commuter train rattled past the station. A mundane sound I had heard every day for 26 years. Right now, it sounded like an air raid siren. "Pauline," I said. "The will is real." Pauline took off her glasses and rubbed her eyes. "Looks like it. Crawford is a real attorney. I will vet him through the Bar Association." "But Rita, if the will is authentic, it changes everything. Your spousal share remains, but everything else goes to Tyler. And Sutton is right about the residency petition. It is an heir's legal right." I closed my eyes. In the darkness behind my eyelids, the letters of the will floated by. "I give all of my property to my son." Hank wrote that a month before he died, sat in a lawyer's office, dictated the text, signed it, knew he had a legal wife of 27 years, and still wrote everything. Not half, not a portion, everything. It was not just a legal decision, it was a message. Hank's final message to me: "You are nobody. You have been nobody all these years. The real family is over there in Scranton. You are just set dressing, a mailing address, a stamp on a piece of paper." I opened my eyes. Pauline was looking at me. "Rita, do not give up. We have not checked everything yet. A will can be contested if we prove Hank lacked capacity or was under duress. We can demand a posthumous evaluation." "Hank was in his right mind," I interrupted. "You know that. I know that. No court is going to declare him incompetent. He planned this for months, Pauline, methodically. First he transferred the LLC, then he withdrew the cash, then he drafted the will. He thought of everything." Pauline was silent, because I was right, and she knew it. I got home around 5 o'clock. Mischief met me at the door, rubbing against my legs. Pear was lying on the living room windowsill, staring out into the yard. On the kitchen counter lay an envelope. No stamp, no return address. Someone had dropped it in my mailbox while I was out. I tore it open. Inside was a single page, a printout, a bank statement in the name of Sylvia Ramirez, and one line highlighted in yellow marker: "Deposit, February 15th, $300,000 from H. Cromwell." $300,000. The cash Hank had withdrawn. A massive chunk of it went directly here, into Sylvia's personal account, not through Adams, not through Build Resource, directly. Who dropped this off? Someone who knew about the accounts? Someone who wanted me to see it? Someone from Sylvia's circle? Or Hank's? Lydia? Someone at Ventang? I flipped the page over. On the back, in small, neat handwriting, it read, "Ask about the condo on Lexington." The condo on Lexington? What condo? Where? In Manhattan, Lexington Avenue. I grabbed my phone and dialed Pauline. My hands were shaking so badly I missed the call button twice. "Pauline, check if there is any real estate registered to Hank or Sylvia in the city, Lexington Avenue." "What? From where?" "Just check it, please. Right now." Pauline called back an hour later. I was sitting on the kitchen floor. For some reason, it was easier to think on the floor, as if the ground held me more firmly than a chair. "Rita," Pauline's voice sounded strange, hollow. "The condo exists. 2-bedroom, Lexington Avenue, deeded in October of last year. In the name of Tyler Cromwell, minor, legal guardian, mother, Sylvia Ramirez. A condo in Manhattan, on Lexington, a 2-bedroom, deeded to a 12-year-old boy. Bought with money Hank had saved up while married to me. Our money." "Price?" I whispered. "Appraised at $1.5 million. Market value is probably $2 million. Lexington Avenue, good building, recently renovated. Rita, that is where the cash withdrawals went. Plus probably some of the transfers routed through Adams. He bought them an apartment in the city so Tyler could go to a good school. Remember Sylvia said that?" I remembered. She did say it. And Hank did not just talk about it, he did it. Bought a multi-million-dollar apartment while I sat at home petting the cats. bought with joint marital assets, without my knowledge, without my consent. I placed the phone on the floor and lay down next to it, right on the cold tile. Mischief walked over and lay on my chest, warm and heavy. I stared at the ceiling, white with a crack in the corner that Hank and I always meant to patch, and thought, the scale of the betrayal was grander than I had ever imagined. Hank did not just cheat. He did not just live a double life. He systematically, year after year, stripped me of everything. The LLC to Adams, the cash to Sylvia, the condo to Tyler, the will in case of death, the deed transfer for the house. He did not get to that one, but he was going to. He was building a future for them by tearing down mine, brick by brick. And all the while he came home every night, ate dinner, asked Rita, "What is for breakfast?" got into our bed, and fell asleep peacefully, without a shred of guilt. 27 years. Or was it 13? Maybe the first 14 were real. Maybe he loved me back then, a long time ago. And then he met Sylvia, and the love flowed over there, like water finding a slope, and I was left on the dry shore, unaware the river was gone. The phone rang. Pauline. "Rita, how are you holding up?" "Fine," I lied. "Bullshit. Listen, the condo on Lexington is our trump card. It was purchased with joint marital funds. We can petition to void the transaction or demand massive compensation." "That is serious money, Rita. It changes the board." I listened and nodded, even though she could not see me. Yes, a trump card. Yes, we could demand it. Yes, the law was on my side. But Sutton knew the law too, and Sutton had the will. Adams, a year of litigation, the threat of them moving into my house, and I had the cats, an empty checking account, and the feeling that the ground was falling away beneath me. "Pauline," I said, still lying on the floor. "Who could have dropped off that statement?" Pauline thought for a moment. "Someone who has access to Sylvia's accounts and wants you to know. Someone from Hank's office." An accountant. The accountant. Venteng's bookkeeper was Nancy Sanders, a quiet woman in her 50s who had managed the books since the company was founded. She knew all the financial flows, she saw the wire transfers, and she was the only person besides Hank who had access to the bank statements. Nancy Sanders, who now worked under Adams, the new managing director, who could fire her at any second. She took a massive risk slipping this to me. That meant she cared. I peeled myself off the floor. Mischief meowed in annoyance and jumped down. Tomorrow, I would call Nancy Sanders. Tomorrow, I would go to the office. Tomorrow, I would start digging deeper. Because if Hank hid a condo on Lexington Avenue, he could have hidden other things. But for now, I just needed to survive until tomorrow. Feed the cats, drink some tea, lie down on the couch, and try not to think about the fact that the man I loved for 27 years considered me a mistake that needed to be erased from his life. I called Nancy Sanders at 7 a.m. Early, I knew, but I could not sleep. I had stopped sleeping altogether. I would lie on the couch, close my eyes, and documents would start swimming in front of me. Wills, purchase agreements, bank statements. The letters formed words, the words formed a death sentence. By 5 a.m. I would give up, get up, make coffee, and sit in the kitchen. Nancy answered on the third ring. Her voice was groggy, raspy. "Mrs. Cromwell, what is wrong?" "Nancy, did you drop off the envelope?" Silence, long, heavy. I could hear her breathing unevenly, frightened. "I do not know what you are." "Sylvia's bank statement, $300,000, and a note about the condo on Lexington. It was you." Silence again. Then a whisper, as if someone might be listening. "Margaret, not on the phone. Please, let's meet. Just not near the office. Adams controls everything. Meet me at the diner in Midtown at 1 p.m. I will come on my lunch break." She hung up. I finished my cold coffee and went to feed the cats. Mischief was screaming across the kitchen. She hated the new food. Pear ate in silence, focused, as always. They did not care that the world was collapsing. They just needed breakfast.
I envied them for the first time in my life. I got to the diner at 12:40, took a booth in the corner, ordered tea I was not going to drink. The people around me were going about their normal lives. Students with laptops, mothers with strollers, an elderly woman eating pie. None of them knew that the woman sitting in the booth next to them had a dead husband who stole everything from her. Nancy showed up exactly at 1. Small, slouched, clutching a purse to her chest. She scanned the room, saw me, and for a split second, something flickered on her face. Relief, then fear. She quickly walked over and sat across from me. "Thank you for coming," I said. She did not answer. She pulled a napkin from her bag and dabbed her forehead. Her hands were shaking. "Margaret, I'm scared," she said quietly. "Adams fired Victor from the engineering department last week without any explanation. Just said, your services are no longer required. Victor worked for Henry for 11 years, and now Adams has brought in his own people, 2 guys. I do not know them. They are not engineers. They sit in the conference room all day sorting through documents." "What documents?" "Client contracts, accounting records, everything. They are making copies and boxing them up." I asked why, and Adams said, "Audit." "But it is not an audit, Margaret. They are removing the original documents. I saw one of them loading boxes into his car. Removing documents, the original contracts, the financial ledgers. If they destroyed the primary source documents, reconstructing the firm's financial history would be impossible. And without the primary documents, it would be impossible to prove the real valuation of Venteng. Impossible to contest the $1 sale. Impossible to show the judge that the company was worth millions. "Nancy," I leaned across the table. "Do you have copies? Digital, anything?" She nodded quickly, nervously. I have been making backups to a flash drive for the last 3 years. Henry did not know. I did it for myself, just in case. You never know with tax audits. I have everything. All the contracts, all the invoices, all the wire logs." My breath caught. A flash drive. A tiny piece of plastic containing 3 years of the firm's financial life. Proof of the business's actual worth. Proof that the $1 sale was a sham. "Bring me that flash drive," I said. "Please." Nancy lowered her eyes. "Margaret, if Adams finds out..." "He will not. I will protect you, I promise." She stayed quiet for a long time, crumpling the napkin in her hands. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a small Ziploc bag. Inside was a black Kingston flash drive. "Here. I grabbed it this morning before Adams got in. It is all there. I took the drive. It was light, almost weightless, but it held millions of dollars." "Nancy, why are you doing this?" She looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw not fear in her eyes, but anger. A quiet, deep, accountant's anger. "Because Henry was a good man to me, to the employees. He built this firm from scratch, and this Adams guy, he is killing it. He is not an engineer. He knows nothing about HVAC. He came in and is destroying everything Henry built for 20 years. And that woman, Sylvia, she came to the office last week, walked through the halls, touching the furniture, asking how much the equipment costs, like she owned the place, like she had the right." Nancy's voice was getting louder, and people were starting to look at us. I put my hand over hers. "Shh, thank you. I will handle it." She nodded, stood up, and buttoned her coat. At the door, she turned around. "Margaret, Henry was a good boss, but what he did to you, it was not fair. I am sorry." And she left, leaving me sitting there with the flash drive in my hand and a cup of tea I never touched. I did not leave the house for the next 3 days. I sat at the computer, scouring the files on the flash drive, thousands of documents, contracts, completion certificates, invoices, wire transfer logs. 3 years of Venteng's financial life. Every dollar, every contract, every client. And the deeper I dug, the clearer the picture became.
The firm was incredibly healthy, highly profitable. Annual gross revenue, 3.8 million. Net profit, around 700,000 a year. Consistent clients, 3 massive development companies, 2 shopping malls, and a municipal contract for servicing the ventilation systems in the public schools. The staff was well paid, there was 0 debt, and Hank sold this firm for $1. Half of a business that was easily evaluated at 2 to 3 million. On the 3rd day, when my vision was blurring from staring at spreadsheets, Sutton called. "Margaret, a week has passed. We are ready to finalize the settlement agreement." "I need more time," I said. "How much?" A pause, then a dry reply. "A week, maximum. After that, we file the residency petition for Tyler to move into the house, and we file a report with the police." "The police?" I did not understand. "Sylvia Ramirez claims that valuable items are missing from Henry Cromwell's residence. Documents, jewelry. She believes you might have—" "Stop," I cut him off. "What jewelry?" Hank did not own any jewelry. "That will be for the investigators to determine," Sutton replied. And his voice was so smooth, so calm, it made me nauseous. He was threatening me with criminal charges, with a fabricated theft report, to pressure me, to break me, to make me sign their terms. I hung up the phone. My hands were shaking, not from fear but from powerlessness, from the feeling that the walls were closing in, that the air was running out, that I was alone against a machine grinding up everything in its path. I called Pauline and told her about the police threat. Pauline stayed silent longer than usual, then said, "Rita, it is classic leverage. The police report will go nowhere. There is no proof, no basis. But it means they are rushing. They need you to sign quickly before you find everything." "Before I find everything," I echoed. That night, for the first time in 3 weeks, I slept in our bed. I do not know why. Maybe because the couch had become unbearably hard. Maybe because I needed to prove something to myself, that this was my house, my bedroom, my bed, that no Sylvia was going to take away my right to sleep in my own bed. The pillow still smelled like Hank. A month after he died, it still smelled of his shampoo, his skin. I buried my face in it, and the tears came on their own. Hot, angry, salty tears. I cried and whispered into the pillow. "Why? Why did you do this? What did I ever do to you?" There was no answer. Silence, the dark ceiling, the scent of the man who had betrayed me more profoundly than I ever thought possible. Pear jumped onto the bed and curled up at my feet. Mischief settled in next to my pillow, resting a paw on my tear-stained cheek. And I lay there, sandwiched between 2 cats in the bed of a dead traitor, in a house they wanted to steal. And I thought, maybe Sutton is right. Maybe I should just give it all up, walk away, start over. I am 49, I have a career, I have my mind. I can rent an apartment, work, live without the house, without the money, without the past, just live. The thought was like a painkiller. Surrender, and the pain goes away. I would not have to stay up all night reading documents. I would not have to fear the police. I would not have to look into Arthur Sutton's cold eyes. Just sign the papers and walk away. I almost decided to do it. Almost. There were 3 hours left until dawn when the phone rang. An unknown number, Manhattan area code. But not Sutton. I answered. "Margaret Cromwell?" A woman's voice, young, nervous. "I am sorry to call so late. My name is Alison Crawford. My father is Attorney Crawford, the one who notarized your husband's will." I sat up in bed. The sleepiness vanished instantly. "I am listening." "I need to speak with you in person. It is about the will. My dad does not know I am calling. He will kill me if he finds out. But I can't keep quiet. Please, meet with me." Her voice trembled. This girl was terrified, truly terrified. "When?" "Central Park, by Bethesda Fountain.
9 a.m. I will be wearing a red puffer jacket. She hung up. I sat in the dark, clutching the phone to my chest. My heart was pounding so hard that mischief lifted her head and gave me a confused look. The lawyer's daughter, the very lawyer who notarized Hank's will. She wanted to tell me something her father did not know, or something her father was trying to hide. I leaned back against the headboard, and for the first time during that endless night, I felt neither pain nor despair. I felt something else, cold, sharp, familiar, the thrill of the hunt, the same feeling that would wake up when a seemingly hopeless case on my desk suddenly started to come together, when a pattern emerged from the chaos of paperwork, when I realized, this is it, this is the opening, Central Park, 9 a.m. red puffer jacket. I was not going to surrender, not yet. At 8:50 a.m., I was standing by the fountain in Central Park. I stood there, gripping my phone in my pocket, waiting for the girl in the red puffer jacket who could either change everything or turn out to be a trap. I had barely slept. After Alison Crawford's call, I lay in bed for 3 hours staring at the ceiling, running through the possibilities. Option 1. The lawyer's daughter actually wants to help. She has information about procedural violations when the will was drafted. Option 2. This is a setup by Sutton. He knows I am digging and wants to lure me into a meeting, record the conversation, use it against me. Option 3. The girl is real, but the information is useless. I had not called Pauline. For the first time in this entire ordeal, I did not call her. I do not know why. Maybe because I was tired of being a client, even to my best friend. Maybe because I wanted to do something myself, without anyone else's advice, without anyone else's judgment. At 8:55, I saw her. A red puffer jacket, just like she said. A girl in her mid-20s, light brown hair, thin, wire-rimmed glasses. She was walking quickly, glancing around nervously as if being followed. She spotted me, slowed down, and approached. Margaret? Yes. Alison? She nodded. We sat on a bench near the fountain, which was not on yet. Alison clasped her hands in her lap and did not look at me. She stared at the empty basin of the fountain. I work as a paralegal for my dad, she began. In the law firm. I manage the registry, prep the documents. I saw your husband's will. I was there when it was drafted. I remained silent, waiting. Your husband came in that day in February with Adams. I know Adams. He used to bring clients to my dad. They have known each other a long time. My dad and Adams, they are not friends, but they do business together. Adams has thrown a lot of clients my dad's way over the years, for a cut. A cut of what? Alison finally looked at me. In her eyes was the same quiet anger I had seen in Nancy Sanders. The anger of someone who had kept quiet for too long. Kickbacks. Adams brings in people who need documents processed quickly, without unnecessary questions. My dad processes them, gets his share. Usually it is deeds or power of attorney, but your husband's will. She trailed off, searching for the right words. Margaret, your husband was sick that day. He looked terrible, pale, hands shaking. He had to ask what the text meant twice. Adams stood right over him, prompting him, literally dictating the phrasing. My dad was supposed to ensure the testator was acting of his own free will. He was required by law to speak to your husband privately, without third parties in the room. But he did not do it. Adams was in the office the entire time. My heart hammered so hard, I felt the pulse in my throat. Are you saying procedure was violated? I am saying my dad failed to meet the legal requirements. The probate code mandates the attorney verify the testator's competency and ensure there is no undue influence. Adams had no right to be in that room during the execution of the will. He was not an impartial witness. He was an interested party. He is the sole heir's cousin. But my dad did not ask him to leave because Adams is his client, his source of income. I sat there, feeling something rising inside me. Not hope yet, but its precursor. The warm rush of blood you get when freezing hands finally start to thaw. "Alison, why are you telling me this?" She looked away. Her lips trembled. "Because I am ashamed. Because my dad is a good person, but he got tangled up in this. Adams is using him. And when I saw your name in the documents, I Googled you. Found out you are an attorney, that you are the wife. It made me physically sick. I imagined myself in your shoes, and it made me sick." She reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a white, unmarked envelope.
"Here is a copy of the security camera footage from my dad's office that day. A video clearly showing Adams in the room during the drafting of the will, and an audio recording. We have a dictaphone. My dad records all his sessions for liability. On the tape you can hear Adams dictating the terms of the will. Not your husband, Adams." I took the envelope. My hands were not shaking. For the first time in 3 weeks, they were not shaking. "Alison, do you understand what this means? I know my dad could get disbarred, maybe face criminal charges, but I can't keep quiet anymore. I just can't." She stood up and zipped her jacket to her chin. "Margaret, please. If this goes to trial, ask them to go easy on my dad. He is not evil. He is just weak." I nodded. She walked away quickly, without looking back. The red puffer jacket flashed between the trees and disappeared. I remained on the bench. The envelope rested on my lap, light, thin, but inside was a bomb. Video and audio proving the will was executed with gross procedural violations, that Adams, an interested party, was present and practically dictated the text, that the attorney failed to ensure testamentary freedom. It was enough to invalidate the will. Not could be enough, was enough. I knew the case law, knew exactly how probate judges reacted to these kinds of violations. The will could be thrown out, but that was not all. My mind was firing faster than it had all month. If the will was invalid, the estate would be divided according to interstate succession laws. Tyler and I were the primary heirs, 50-50, plus my spousal elective share, plus the voidable LLC transfer, plus the Lexington condo bought with joint marital assets, plus Nancy Sanders's flash drive proving the actual valuation of Ventang. The puzzle was complete, piece by piece, detail by detail, just like the cases I had handled for 26 years in my little office by the train station. I dialed Pauline. My voice was iron. "Pauline, I know what we are doing. Come over to my house tonight. Bring blank civil complaint forms. And Pauline, I am going to need a top-tier handwriting expert and an audio forensics specialist." "Rita, what happened?" Pauline heard something in my voice, something new. "What happened is I am done crying. Come over, I will tell you everything." When I got home, the first thing I did was open the envelope, a flash drive with the video, and a tiny memory card with the dictaphone audio. I plugged the drive into my laptop. The video was black and white, from a camera mounted in the corner of the office. 3 figures were clearly visible: Hank at the desk, Adams next to him, Attorney Crawford across from them. Adams leaned into Hank, saying something. Hank nodded, Crawford typed. Adams spoke again. Hank nodded again and signed. The audio was even more damning. Adams's voice crisp and commanding. "Write all property of whatever nature and wherever situated, everything, to Tyler. Come on, Hank, you want to make sure your son is provided for." And Hank's voice, quiet, raspy, exhausted. Yeah, write it down." He was not even dictating it himself. He was not phrasing it. Adams was deciding for him. Pauline arrived at 7. I laid everything out in front of her. Nancy's flash drive from accounting, Alison's envelope with the recordings, the corporate registry filings, the data on the Lexington Avenue condo. Pauline sat at the kitchen island, sifting through the papers, listening to the recordings. Mischief paraded across the island between the documents. and Pauline absent-mindedly nudged her paws away from the paperwork. "Rita," Pauline finally said. She took off her glasses and looked at me. In her eyes was something I had not seen before. Not just professional thrill, but pure admiration. "You have everything. Voidable LLC transfers, procedural violations on the will execution, illegal asset stripping of marital property. Rita, this is not just a strong position. It is an absolute massacre." "I know," I said, and for the first time in a month, I smiled. It was crooked, just the corner of my mouth, but it was a smile. "But," Pauline raised a finger, "Sutton is not an idiot. When he sees this, he will start negotiating. He will offer a new settlement on different terms, try to cut a deal." "I do not want to cut a deal," I said, surprising myself with how my voice sounded. Calm, cold, like a scalpel. "I want them to walk into that courtroom and get exactly what they deserve. Every single one of them." Pauline looked at me with a long, steady gaze. "Rita, you realize the boy did not do anything wrong, right? Tyler is just a kid." I closed my eyes, and in the darkness, the face of a 12-year-old boy appeared before me. Thank you for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. We would love to know what you think.